Welcome back to Koala Gardens. I'm continuing on with my top 10 reasons to save koala, break down to one reason at a time, and we are at reason number 3, and this video is brought to you by the fantastic support that I get from my patrons on Patreon, In the Loop adopters, Lynn who looks after my website, donations that are made just when I need something the most, calendar sponsors. Honestly, I could not do a single thing I do without the help I get in behind. If you're interested in supporting me in any way, check out links in the description below. But what I really want to talk about today with number 3 reason is the important role that koalas play in their ecosystem, because what we've learned is everything is connected. Some of the important ways that koalas contribute to the ecosystem they belong in include: koalas look after their habitat's ecosystem by controlling plant growth, enriching the soil with their scat, and reducing the amount of eucalyptus leaves that could fuel wildfires. So let's break that down a little bit more. A single koala can eat more than half a kilo, or about a pound, of leaf every single day. They're eating those eucalyptus leaves, which contain high volumes of volatile oils, the eucalyptols, and they process those oils through their livers in the most amazing way. Koala livers are astounding. It means that the scat that they produce does not have a high level of volatile oils, so they're actually removing a whole lot of that volatile oil from the canopy of the forest. This helps reduce the fuel load and the volatility of the fuel load up in the treetops, which is really important for reducing the chance that fires that do come through burn too hot and burn right up into the canopy. Now, eucalyptus forests are designed for fires to come through them, and that's something that not a lot of people always fully understand. One of the key things about climate change here is how fire is changing. So not only climate change, but the poor management of the landscape that Whitefella is doing since they took everything over in Australia, that's really compounding things. The fires become particularly destructive when they get up into the canopy and when the fuel loads are too high. So koalas perform an important function by keeping that fuel load down. If a cool fire comes through, it will actually quickly burn up just a lot of the excess fuel stuff that's building up around the forest without actually hurting the trees, and protect the forest from the next fire being able to burn too hotly. The fire also causes a change in the seeds of a lot of our native bush varieties and triggers germination. Our First Nations people would do what we call cultural burns frequently. They were deliberately landscaping. When we look at what we think of as being natural Australian bush, we often fail to understand just how important a role our First Nations people had in shaping that bush to be a safe place to live in. When an ecosystem is in balance, it supports a larger diversity of life and promotes resilience. So, a larger diversity will also create resilience to fire and a dependency on fire. Koalas help to look after the forest and help ensure biodiversity. Another service koalas provide to the forest as they feed is that they often break small branches and drop bits of extra leaf and things onto the forest floor. Now, many insects and ground reptiles rely on this hard mulch for their survival, and therefore so do the small predators that predate on those insects and ground reptiles. So yes, it's true, trees naturally drop dead branches and leaves, but koalas hasten and expand on this natural process. If you were to try and imagine a time when there were tens of millions of koalas out there in those forests, and think about how much leaf each one of them were eating every single day, how much of the eucalyptus oil that would have meant tens of millions of koalas were removing from the fuel load every single day, and how much litter they were dropping down onto the forest floor, helping trap carbon, I think we can start to develop a bit of an impression of what amazing custodians the koalas have been for the forest. Now, as I said a few minutes ago, koala scat does not contain high amounts of volatile eucalyptus oil. So we can't take a pile of their scat and use that as an extra wonderful fuel because it's got all those oils in it. But it does provide nutrients down into the soil, particularly when the wet weather comes, to quickly break them down. So again, when there were tens of millions of koalas, there was all this amazing scat fertilising the forest floor. I just want to get a little bit of perspective on things now, because I've been talking about tens of millions of koalas doing all these things for the forest. Koala numbers have now been reduced to about 1 to 2% of what there were only a couple of hundred years ago. The habitat reduction's harder to quantify simply because 1,000 trees that are not living in a forest community are not the same as 1,000 trees that are in a forest community in a patch of remnant. Statistics on deforestation vary depending on what report you read too, and so do the statistic numbers on the koalas left, I suppose. But many reports talk about the total amount of forest cleared. Remember though, koalas only live in a particular type of forest. It's generally accepted that around 80% of koala habitat has now been decimated. This brings me back to the importance of the state of what remains and how important this is for koalas to survive. Because it could seem like, well, hang on, there's tons of forest now for the koalas left because 1% of the koalas have 20% of the forest they used to have. Well, that's where the numbers are misleading. The 20% that is left is often made up of fragmented remnants. One reason for this is that many of these remnants are found in urban settings. Areas of protected national park, where there's large areas of good solid forest, are no longer protected and are being selectively logged, and they don't necessarily provide a safe haven. Koalas need to move through the landscape to disperse, so pockets of fragmented forest are detrimental to the koalas doing their job properly. To examine the role of the koala in their natural ecosystem, it's important to be really aware that their ecosystems have changed dramatically. You often hear me saying it's trees, trees and more trees, and that is true. But it's not trees alone, it's ecosystems. If koalas become extinct, there will be a direct impact on the health of the eucalypt forests left behind. I love how this brings around into a full circle the way the top 3 reasons completely connect together. I'm going to finish by summarising the top 3 reasons into one single paragraph. Koalas are arboreal. Protecting their habitat means we're protecting forests with high biodiversity. Every forest we protect is home to a host of flora and fauna. When we protect forests, we're combating climate change. Koalas play an important role in maintaining the health of the forests that we have protected. Ergo, protecting koalas means survival for everyone. And guess what? You've just reached the end of another Koala Gardens video, so I would love when you're smashing that like button if you would write in the comments below, Protecting koalas means survival for everyone. Thanks for watching. Lots more great video coming your way soon. Another way that you can support what I'm doing here at Koala Gardens, if you can't do regular support, which you are not obliged to do, is anytime you're looking for something for yourself, a new t-shirt, a hoodie, a cover for your phone, whatever, you want a gift for someone, you want to give them something different, hop over to my Redbubble store and have a look at the range of designs on over 60 different types of merchandise that are all sustainably printed and posted. I challenge you to see if there's not something for you.